Been a long time since I've addressed you from this very prestigious location, next to these two chumps on my left, next to two failures, abject failures. I'm here that you can't see in the
Mohammad Hijab recently came out with a video giving some comments on Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, where they were discussing briefly on the Joe Rogan podcast about AI versus God and so on.
And two figures who are no doubt big figures in the conservative world and also in American culture generally. They were talking about God and they were talking about AI. I found it interesting. Let's take a look at this and come back and respond in kind.
So yeah, I just wanted to break down a couple points from that video of Mohammad Hijab. Before I get into that, my name is Mohammad, proud and practicing Muslim, South African, and computer science major at one of the top 3 universities in South Africa. I say that only to give validation to my speech, so that you know I'm not just a couple pixels on a screen and I have a life just like you. I think the first point, of course, we have to kind of distinguish and have a proper understanding of who or what God is. I think we can't say, oh, he's a God, that's a God. You know, that could be a God, but wait. What are we talking about? What exactly are we referring to here? And so, I don't claim to be a scholar. I don't want it to come across in that way either, but I think we can kind of discuss the basics of what, our ideas of what an ultimate true God is. We speak about a being that's all-powerful, all knowledgeable, knows everything, right? Hears everything, sees everything, can do that which he wills, has infinite amounts of power. I mean, of course, probably an important key point here, has no beginning and has no end. And these are just sort of, some of the characteristics, as they say, or attributes of God that I think are pretty common, I would say. I think everyone would agree when we're discussing this concept of God that is what a God is. God should encompass these characteristics. Fair. That being said, the second point is that, AI has and will always require an input, right? It technically has been created. So when we go back to the definition of, or kind of the understanding of what God is, we can kind of quickly rule it out that AI is not God, because, well, it's not been around forever. It's not had a beginning, right? I think that's how I'm supposed to say it, right? It's not eternal. It's not something that has just existed forever. Someone came along and it's been created. There's been inputs. I mean, I can't claim to know in detail the intricacies of how AI came along, but the point is that through the minds of human beings, it has been created, simply put. And I think this kind of goes without saying, but how can a God be created? Point number 3 is actually an interesting verse that the Almighty mentions in Surah Hajj, right? Chapter 22, verse 73, where Allah says, O people, an example is presented, so listen to it. Indeed, those you invoke besides Allah, right? So any other being that you want to take to be a God, right, will never create as much as a fly. Even if they all gathered together for that purpose alone, they wouldn't be able to create this fly. And I mean, the verse continues, if the fly were to steal from them, they could not even recover it. weak are the pursuer and the pursued. Now, I just want to focus on the initial point of that verse that discusses how anyone that you want to claim to be a god, bring them forth and ask them to create even a fly. Now, the example of the fly is actually super powerful here, because I mean, we think of creation, we think about the complexity of human beings, we think about the interesting nature of animals and how they behave and so on. We think about the beauty of nature and plants. Yet Allah, of all creation, makes the example of a fly. And the point there, I think, is quite clear, because it's like a fly at this not purposeless creation, but sort of this almost insignificant little thing that God has created and put life into. And no one can come along, and will never be able to come along, and create even that. So how do we possibly make claims that this is God, that is God, He is God? Let's be honest now, like, that concept of creation or creating, that is a powerful aspect of what it means to be a god. I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but that willingness, that not willingness, but that will, God having this ability to what He wills happens. Well, if AI wills to create a fly and does not execute on that, yeah, with all due respect, I don't think yeah, we mentioned how as much as AI will develop, and I'm sure will create, or maybe not create is not the right term, but it will produce these incredible things that the world has never seen before. At the end of the day, it just won't be able to create life. And so that the next point, I can't remember, it's point number 4 now, I think. No matter what it produces, at the end of the day, it will always be due to the resources that God has already established. So on a very basic level, that the point that I'm trying to make is that no matter how incredible and how amazing and how sophisticated AI becomes, remember, it was always built on the things that God already created. Right, there's this, I'm really not sure if it's Quran or Hadith, or if it's just like this saying, or I can't remember where I've heard this before, but this idea that no matter what you create from the ground up, from literal soil, or I don't know, like the most basic materials, you build up something incredible, and then you stand there and claim to be a god. Well, how about you create the materials yourself? Like, I mean, you claim to have created this thing, but what materials did you use? Did you not use the materials that God created? Well, how about you go and create your own soil? How about, I mean, I think this is the most amazing one. How about you go and create your own water, right? Don't use the water which God put on this earth. And that's the point, is that at the end of the day, I believe AI still stemmed from the minds of human beings, which God created, God put here. So how about if AI is going to claim to be a god? Let's speak about its origins. Let's speak about the backstory. How did it come to be? Did it not come to be due to the resources and due to the materials that God had already placed on this earth? So again, it's another reason to refute. AI being so-called God. And then a quick reminder as well that yes, we watch a lot of videos, we do a lot of things, and interests and hobbies, and stay focused. The Almighty says in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, and I did not create the jinn-kind and mankind except for one reason, that they should worship me. So please, no matter what you're doing, make sure that you remember your purpose on this earth, because as well, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, indeed from Allah did we come, right, and unto Him will be our return. So stay focused. You're here for a specific reason. Do what you need to do. You have duties, you have responsibilities, you have hobbies, you have interests, but remember, there's a very specific reason why you're here. Make sure you take care of your spiritual obligations, your duties to your Creator. Yeah, and that's all.